this video, I'm going to show you how to read a book every single day. Let's go. Hi, it's Tansel here, 4-time Australian memory champion, helping you learn faster and better. If you think this video is helpful, please click like, and also if you're into personal development, please subscribe to the channel, as it really helps me out as well and will help others grow too. Okay, so how do you read a book a day? You're probably thinking, well, why the hell would I want to read a book a day? Some people think, okay, I really want to do it. Right? And the question I always ask people is, why the hell would you want to read a book every single day? I had this one guy approach me and he wanted to read a book every single day. And I said to him, well, why do you want to do that? So why do you want to read a book a day? We want to get some knowledge, mental stimulation, might want to learn some things to help us in our work or jobs or profession, whatever it is. Reading obviously helps us. But how can you read a book every single day or even every few days? Now, I've got a few tricks. Obviously, I teach speed reading and all these things, and I'll go through some of the techniques. Reading a book has got a lot of words, maybe 40, 50,000 words if it's like a couple of hundred pages. So that's a lot of stuff going on. But how do you read it? Basic strategies on how to approach reading a book. And there's a few methods. So method number one, I like to read using audiobooks. Now, audiobooks are really cool because what you can do is you can listen to them on double speed. Right? Sometimes even on triple speed, right? If you're using Audible. You can also sort of download the book and listen to other apps on your phone or computer, which can get up to those speeds as well. But I usually get on Audible, I download the book, I put it on immediately 2.5 speed, sometimes 3 speed depending on the narrator. And I get my brain used to that. And look, it does take some time for your brain to get used to that speed. Well, once you're used to it, now a 7-hour book essentially goes for about 2.5 hours. Right? Think about that. 7-hour book. Let's say you're going 2 speed. 7-hour book goes for 3.5 hours. I don't do one 3.5 hour sitting of reading. I break it up throughout my day. So what I do is I go for walks in the morning and at night. And during those walks, when I'm going for my 1 hour session, I listen for 1 hour. Right? So I'm listening to the book for 1 hour. And that's 2 hours of the book. And then later on in the evening, I listen for another hour. That's another 2 hours gone. So half the book is gone in one day. Right? Half the book I finish in one day. 2 days I finish a book. Right? That's using Audible. Obviously what you can do is you can break up those sessions. If you're doing an hour of something, it doesn't have to be walking, but if you're driving to work, or if you've got something else that you can spend some time on throughout the day, it doesn't have to be 1 hour. It could be in 20-minute blocks many times throughout the day. You're probably thinking that's ridiculous, saying I'm going to need like 10 blocks of whatever. But you work out your own situation. Like I said, it doesn't have to be every single day. You can read a book every 2 days. That's still going to be way more than what you're probably reading. Right? So think about it in that sense. Create a strategy. Right, I'm going to write that down. Strategy for reading. And the strategy is building something that works for you. In this case, for me, it was creating time for walking and then putting Audible in there, right? Because walking is almost automatic for me. It's an automatic habit. And if you haven't seen the habits video, I suggest you check it out in the habits in the description below. But you create automatic habits and then you throw in what you really want to be able to do. That's not a habit in there. So if you want to make this habit automatic, we'll just chuck it in with something automatic, right? That's the easy part. So you want to build a strategy. And for me, it was walking and reading. Think about it that way. Go through a list of things that you're doing throughout the day and see, okay, what can I add in? What part of my reading can I add in to that section? And that's going to be really helpful for you. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a book a day. It could be 2 days, 3 days. Yes, you can read a book in a whole day if you're doing Audible. Who knows? But for me, I don't really care. But for yourself, you can definitely do it that way. The second way of doing it is through speed reading. Now, a lot of you know that I do teach speed reading, and I've gone through some of the techniques on my channel, and I'll probably put some more out there as I get better and better at making these videos. But speed reading is not just reading really, really quickly. Speed reading is visual reading, and when you're reading visually, it's like you're watching a movie, and that's the kind of area you want to get to. So, for example, when you're watching a movie, you don't try and remember all the words, do you? Because that's insane. You don't want to try and remember all the words. We just watch it passively. You just kick back and watch. But when we get to reading, we're really struggling to read and understand because our brain is not really encoding. And what speed reading is, it's fixing that encoding process so that you're getting it like a movie. You're seeing things, even if it's really, really abstract and technical, you can still speed read it. And when you're speed reading, you can essentially read twice, 3 times, 4 times faster than what you're currently reading. And if you're doing that, similar to the method that I mentioned with Audible, in chunks throughout the day, you can definitely read a book in a whole day, or 2 days, 3 days even. So those methods are really, really powerful of reading. So you got triple speed audio, or triple speed audiobook, and triple speed, quadruple speed visualization, visual reading through speed reading techniques. So there you go. That's how powerful these strategies are. But the thing is, you need to create a strategy. You need to create a strategy first. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to apply speed reading techniques, off I go. Because what's going to happen is you might do it once or twice and then give up because something else has happened throughout your day, and or it doesn't even come to your mind because you've forgotten about it. So that's why a habit and a strategy is important, so you can plan out, okay, when do I need to do this? Do I really want to read a book a day, or can I take 2 days? How am I going to acquire this information? How am I going to learn and memorize this information? If you're reading a book to learn and study it, then reading one a day is not really going to be helpful, because yes, you'll learn and understand what's going on, but you probably won't retain much of that information. So another strategy has to be involved in there, like mind mapping and other retention strategies. And again, that's another strategy. If you're reading it for fun, that's a different strategy. If you're reading it for retention, different strategy. If you're reading it to learn and understand concepts, that's another strategy, right? You just have to find out what works best for you and what you want to be able to do. So you have to ask that question first. What do you want to be able to do first when you're approaching reading a book, right? The intention is important. As soon as you set that intention, that's when you start to understand, okay, here's what I'm going to do with the book. If there's no intention, then what's going to happen is you're going to go in blind. You're going to go in blind and maybe read a couple of chapters, and that's it, you're done. In fact, I read in one of the books, a photo reading book by Paul Sheil. If you haven't read it, check it out. It's pretty cool. And what he says was that most people don't get past chapter 2 from reading a book. Now, that's so true, because a lot of the people I work with, that's where they end up, and they go, I read this book, but I only, got to chapter 2. So the trick is, right, if you really want to finish a book, and this is probably the third option for you, is go through and look at every single page. Even if it takes you a few seconds, go through. If it's got 200 pages in it, a few seconds will probably only take you like 600 seconds. What's that, 10 minutes? Right? Not even 10 minutes. I mean, when I do it, it goes for about 3 to 5 minutes. So you're really skimming through and browsing every single page. And what that does is that you're surveying what's in that book. You're looking at the language, you're analyzing if there's any pictures or questions or reflective learning. Is it difficult to understand? Is it easy to understand? Are there any tips at the end? Are there any quotes? So you're looking at all of this and you're surveying what you're reading. Right, what you're about to read. By doing that all the way to the end, now your brain knows that, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with such and such information. Subconsciously, you're saying this. And then when you get into that book, what's going to happen is that you're going to read up to chapter 2, and instead of stopping, your brain's going to go, hang on, chapter 5's got this really cool thing that we quickly browse through. Let's keep reading. So it becomes a motivator because you sort of know what's inside this book. Obviously not all the details, but you know some of the parts. So that's what's going to motivate you to keep reading as well. So third option is just run through the whole book really, really quickly, page by page, like a few seconds, just surveying it. And once you get to the end, then you'll have a good understanding of what the book is about, not from a deep level, but from a very, very basic level. And then when you start reading, it becomes a lot easier. In summary, the 3 points. First is Audible, or it doesn't have to be Audible, but just audiobooks, right? Double speed, triple speed, practice, see how you go, have some fun with it, set out the times, build that strategy for yourself to be able to use these skills. If you're listening at triple speed or double speed and you're doing that a few times a day, I can guarantee you'll finish a book in 1 or 2 days. Number 2 is speed reading. If you understand and learn that speed reading is about visual reading and use some of the strategies that I talked about, and I'll create more videos about as well in future, do them, because speed reading is really powerful, and you can easily finish a book a day in 2 days if you really, really wanted to. And finally, the third one, go through the whole book page by page, but just visualizing. Look at each page and survey it. Try and understand the content. You're trying to look at what's in the actual book. And when you're surveying it, you're pulling out pictures, data, anything like that I mentioned earlier. So they're the 3 things. Hopefully that's made sense. Remember, I'm Tansel, and if you really found this helpful, please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you think it's helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.